The night sky has always held a power over me. As a child, I would camp out in the front yard of my Phoenix home with my telescope. I would focus on the planets and their mysterious glow against the black velvet sky. Yet, something tarnished my love for that night sky, and now, many years later, I am hesitant to stare through the lens again. Because something happened one spring night that would forever make me and thousands of other people question our place in the cosmos. On March 13th of 1997, I was a happy 12-year-old kid. My dad, who was a Phoenix police officer, kissed me on the head as I sat in my front yard, waiting for the sun to set. "You have a good night, kiddo," he said before leaving for his shift. I could hear my mom in the kitchen cleaning the dishes while listening to the local news. She and my dad said goodnight, and I could hear the car doors shut. Just a few minutes later, the sun would set, leaving me to explore the night sky. My mom brought me a plate of cookies. "Remember to look out for scorpions too," she said. My mom always had to remind me that sometimes directing my gaze to my surroundings wasn't the worst idea. It wasn't long before my telescope was in action. I kept a notebook next to me and scribbled what I saw. I would show my dad later when he returned from work. This was our ritual. I focused in and out, pretending I was an astronomer who just discovered a new planet. My still childlike enthusiasm had me utterly entertained. I stopped for a few moments to crack my neck, and I could hear my next-door neighbor grilling in their backyard. Some of my neighbors across the street washed their cars, others played with their families. They were always outside having fun this time of year. It hadn't gotten hot yet, and every Phoenix resident knew to take advantage of the beautiful weather while we still could. I looked around for scorpions as I ate my cookies, taking my black light and shining it near my feet. Scorpions glow green under black lights. My dad called them aliens. Luckily, I didn't see a single creepy bug. I could hear commotion in my neighbor's front yard, where they had set up chairs in the driveway and chatted. "Hey, Sam," Mrs. Johnson cried out. "Get out here now!" I heard their front door open. "Everything okay? Is it a rattlesnake?" her husband said with alarm. "Look up," she muttered. At the same time, both Mr. Johnson and I looked up to where Mrs. Johnson was pointing. We heard no noise, but in the sky moving toward us was a massive, black, boomerang-shaped object. It was at least the size of one football field. "Mom!" I heard myself yelling out in instinct, and in a moment I felt her beside me, and we stared at the gigantic object together. "What is that?" my mother whispered as she placed her hand on my shoulder. I don't know," I stammered. As a stealthy object glided overhead, we could make out 5 glowing amber orbs underneath the craft. They emanated a strange light that I have never seen before or since. I looked around, and I saw all of my neighbors also staring awestruck at the craft. But nobody spoke at this point. We just watched, mesmerized. Within a few moments it had glided off. My mom and I ran back in the house, and she called the local police to report it. The dispatcher could be heard halfway across the room. "We already know. No, we don't know what it is," they said curtly and hung up. And it wouldn't be until a few days later that we would learn that this object, whatever it was reported over 300 miles in the stretch of the Southwest, from Henderson, Nevada, throughout Arizona, and finally in California. Dad would recall that he responded to multiple dispatches regarding the mysterious lights. Later, we would learn that over 700 witnesses were interviewed, and soon after, the then governor of Arizona would hold a press conference and laugh off the entire event as mistaken identity, calling it flares. But for those of us who witnessed it, we knew that those were not flares, because flares don't fly in formation or travel over 300 miles in the course of a few hours. and this event would soon be called the Phoenix Lights. So, as I sit looking at my rusty old telescope and the memories it brings to the forefront of my mind, I decide to place it back into the storage unit. Looking up at the night sky after seeing the Phoenix Lights will never have the same feeling again. Was it friend or foe? A military craft or something from another world? We may never know, but I will never forget that night.